Hey you, Nina here. You are officially listening to Triggered. Can we play with that wherever you get your podcasts? You might also be watching us on YouTube. Hey! And if you're not following me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina, now is a great time to do that. So, if this is your first time listening, welcome. Here's how this usually works. Whether the episode is just me sharing a story and us getting curious about transforming hard conversations into teachable moments, or whether it's a guest talking with me, as is the case today. We have Eric Leffler, right? And we are going to be exploring, again, transforming hard conversations into teachable moments, regardless of whether it's just me or it is me and somebody else. We are transforming hard conversations into teachable moments. I'm always inviting you to have a journal on hand or a really good friend to dialogue with about what comes up for you in each episode. And of course, today is no different. We are going to speak with Eric. Eric's going to give us a story. We're going to, walk through the territory together, all the goodness. But I actually want to offer you something right at the top of this episode. Now, for all of you who are a part of the empowered human community, hey, empowered humans out there, we're really trying to work the difference out between what is powered and what is empowered. There is a really big difference, and a lot of people miss that. So, in a nutshell, what we're looking at is let's talk about you and your relationship with emotions. If you are thinking about it from a powered space, you're thinking, I just need to stop feeling this. I just need to put it down. I just need to cut it out. I just need to get it away, right? This is a very powered way of thinking about you and your feelings. You're the one who matters and you just want to cut everything else out. In an empowered way of thinking about, right, the world at large, yes, but feelings in the case of today, in an empowered way, you acknowledge the feeling, recognize that there is a reason why it is there, right? You recognize it has its own story for why it exists in you. And you acknowledge that so that you can honor both its story as well as your own, which may be, even though it has its own way of protecting you or its own truth within you, that truth may still be hijacking you and not beneficial for you. But both truths can exist. So I'm going to play this back for you. Get out your journal now. Powered way of relating to your emotions, you try to get rid of it, cut it out, or absolutely reject it, right? In the case of an empowered way of dealing with our emotions, we're honoring the multiple truths that are present. They can coexist, even though it seems as if they cannot. And we're trying to figure out, how do we build a bridge to move forward? You see how this works? There's a lot more to be said on this. If you are interested in learning more about the empowerment spectrum and how to transform from powered to empowered in your life, not just with your emotions, but also with your diverse identities, my friend, we have a free workshop coming up this month. It's the Empowered Human Live. I'm going to get on. I'm going to teach you about it. I want to hear your stories. I want to get you some skills in your bag so that you can move forward. Text me. That's right. I said it. Text me. 281-713-5165, your email. I will send you directly the link so that we can get you signed up for that and you can get in on it. If you can't make it the day that we're having it, we'll send you the replay. Yes, it's all good so long as you are taking that resource and moving forward with it in your own way, shape, or form. So, as I was saying, you're going to hear a story today. You're going to get tools, but this powered versus empowered when it comes to your emotions is really going to come up. Eric's going to be talking about the pressure of working with some high profile individuals. And then what happened when the emotions hijacked him. Hijacked him. I'm not going to say any more about what could be happening here. I want to invite you to listen to the rest of this episode. And for now, even though we won't be able to explore every facet of emotional hijacking, powered versus empowered, and anxiety, right? Our relationship with anxiety, even though we won't be able to explore all of that, we will be able to explore at least one facet, transforming this hard conversation into teachable moment, if not moments. So, of course, at this point, I am curious. Are you ready to play?
Welcome to Triggered. Can we play with that? You know that moment when your emotions ramp up in an instant, leaving you feeling helpless, frozen, or out of control? In that moment, you've been emotionally hijacked, the very definition of triggered. And I want to ask you, can we play with that? I'm Nina L. Garcia, drama therapist and empowerment coach of Houston Creative Arts Therapy. Join me as we discover ways to empower you and the people who mean the most to you to transform hard conversations into teachable moments. Triggered. Real playful. Real respectful. Real empowered.
Let's take a breath. So before I say anything, just fair warning to everyone, if you hear my mouth click or anything like that, I have a Ricola. I am enjoying it to soothe my throat. I'm self-caring while I work. And scene. That's the end of that. Welcome, Eric Leffler.
Hey, Nina, thank you so much for having me on today.
I'm so excited to have you here today, but I also feel a super grounded energy with you already. So I'm really curious as to how we are going to explore today. We do, of course, set our episode out already with the intent, we're going to have a human to human conversation. Things may get sticky, things may get uncomfortable. Do you consent to walking with me in that territory together?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. I am also with you, my friend. Okay. So, Eric, would you please introduce whatever feels most present to you when it comes to identities, roles? I know we can't encapsulate a full human being in this moment, but what's most present with you these days?
Yeah. I think that there's some basics, right? I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a friend, I'm a brother. And I think most importantly, I'm a teacher and I'm a student, right? And I'm talking about in the game of life. So we'll get into that, but I always think it's important to remember that, this is a never-ending journey for all of us, and we should always be moving forward with a growth mindset.
Ooh, if you have your journals out, okay, that is the thing first to write down. It's a never-ending journey. Get your growth mindset on. Okay, super stoked. Before we share any more, what is your internal weather check-in? I want people to learn how to utilize this skill. What's your internal weather like right now, Eric?
Yeah. And if you saw, I just took a deep breath because I feel like it's important to ground with your senses whenever you kind of check in. But I'm feeling good. It's sunny. It's sunny here. It's getting warmer, and I'm a summer child. So
you're in your element.
Hope springs eternal.
All right. So then before you share your story, the title that you gave me when you first submitted was Existential Dread. I am ready to hear
the inverse of Hope springs eternal.
So we see the character arc already, right? Once upon a time, existential dread. And now hope springs eternal. This can be the true same story for you, folks. Listen in. All right, Eric, are you ready to share your story in a nutshell, my friend?
I am.
All right, I'm ready to hear it.
So, and I think, when we're thinking about existential dread, it becomes a question of what comes next, right? And a lot of times, throughout our lives, we might be facing that question several times. And this is the story I'm about to share I like to think of it kind of as my origin story. It was a big wake up moment, and it was a moment that I decided to act on and to start to change. So it actually takes us back 6 years ago. And ironically, this may come as a surprise or a surreal experience for some of the listeners, but to the Vanity Fair Oscar party in 2017.
Oh, just the Vanity Fair Oscar party.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
There will be no celebrity name dropping throughout the episode, but it was the first year that we were doing a live stream from the red carpet. I was at the company for a year at Condé Nast, and we're all thinking really big. What is the new white space? What can we be doing? And I'm coming from a news background where I spent most of my day in a live news environment. So this was really a natural kind of transition for me to get into, but it was also when I was transitioning from news into new digital media, everybody would remind me, this is a big boy job. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you.
Pressure's on.
Gotta get a suit jacket and, be professional. And, there's no sneakers in the office anymore. Those perceptions were off. It was a very comfortable and casual work environment, but I was very familiar and comfortable with that pressure. because it was pressure that I put on myself throughout my entire career, the pressure to succeed, to overcome, and to just always deliver, always be reliable. And especially in media, where we're seeing this happen just right now, with, layoffs, transitions, pivots. We've all heard of many, many pivots to videos over the past 10 years. And there's a lot of instability, which creates a lot of, at least for me, but I know for a lot of other people also, a lot of stress and anxiety. So I'm stepping into this kind of like do or die event. We did a mini version of it the year prior. It was proof of concept. It worked really well. So now there's some money, there's some sponsors, there's a lot of movement, but in all things digital media, we have really small teams. So I was wearing many, many hats. The event goes off without a hitch. It was actually very, very successful. It was very, very wonderful. It was exhilarating. I was on top of the world. That year, the Oscars were on February 26th. And my birthday happens to be on February 27th. So we finished around 11 that night. And, we're all coming down, we're all patting each other on the back. And I'm like, wow, I really can't believe that I pulled that off. Right. And just with my team also, right. It was a group effort. But again, I'm internalizing a lot of that pressure onto my own shoulders. But then I also turned 35 at midnight in this very surreal environment with, again, no name dropping, but with some of the biggest names in Hollywood just hanging out around me. It was a very, very odd night. And typically after award season, things kind of slow down. The summer months are a little easy, and, and weirdly enough, that was when I started to feel every possible symptom under the sun of what I later learned to be residual stress and anxiety from this event. If you think about like a bottle of champagne that you're just shaking up and it's pressurized. And I started seeing it a little slowly, shortness of breath, tightness in my chest, a little bit up here too, right? Which gave me some heart concerns, right?
Up in the chest or the
shoulder, feel it in the shoulder and then I started to get spells of dizziness. So I wasn't able to stand at a colleague's desk or in a meeting for honestly more than just a few moments without having to grasp onto a wall or desk or, like the wall dividers, between desks to hold myself up. And I realized I was kind of like struggling to fake my way physically through the day. So I went in and I was like, okay, I got to go get this checked out. And, blood work and heart monitors and stress tests, running on treadmills, all hooked up to everything. And they said I was fine.
You can't find anything wrong.
Yep. And I'm like, yo, y'all got to be kidding me right now. Like there's something's going wrong. Like I would just, like watching TV, my heart feels like it's going through the roof. And that was a really big wake up call for me. And there's little things that you can do, right? Like eating healthier and getting more sleep and just trying to manage stress and anxiety. Exactly. And it wasn't really, until years later that I really started to have that reconciliation with, the way, and, for people in this community that we're in right now, and the mindset and the healing journey aspect of it is, the body keeps the score.
Absolutely.
And it really does. And what I realized was that my body was becoming, instead of this vessel for joy and life and adventure and all of these amazing things that our bodies are, in my opinion, meant to do, it became a container for every fear, every trigger, every, I'm fortunate enough not to have any capital T trauma in my life, but we all have trauma in some regard, and all that lowercase t trauma was all just kind of contained. So yeah, that's my origin story. That's how that's the event that happened, my triggering event that really woke me up and changed the way that I show up for myself, the way that I show up for others, and the way that I show up for, my community, including my workplace community.
Mm-hmm. Is this a good point for me to ask some questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Eric,
mean,
you
my
shared.
story is still going on, but
Yes, of course,
but it's an
right?
ongoing journey now.
This is the journey. Okay, so just here in this moment, right? When I hear that this was a wake-up call, right? And the reality that so many human beings go through when something is wrong and they know something is wrong. They know that this isn't their baseline, their most regulated self, their best life. They don't feel right. They know no, something is now off, and I need somebody to tell me, right? I want to trust these professionals to be able to tell me what's wrong. And then they do all the due diligence, just like you did. And the report that they get back is, first, they're told there's nothing wrong with you, when the reality is we can't find or discern what is actually affecting you. We don't know how to quantify or qualify what is actually affecting you. At any point, did anyone suggest, any of these doctors or anyone that you saw, that you see an EQ specialist or a therapist or a coach or anything around emotional wellness?
I mean, the answer is very short, and it's no. That was, I mean, yes.
This world.
It's
Okay.
it wasn't even a part of the, of the equation or the
No,
conversation at
no.
all. And I'm blessed that I was able to just, coincidentally end up
Yep.
meeting people in the subsequent 6 years that kind of really opened up my eyes to, this world that I now work in, the
Yes.
daily practice, the one that you
Mm,
do.
mm-hmm.
um and you really, for me, it also starts, and I think this might be helpful for the listeners too, but just having that awareness. I would say
Boom.
awareness first, acceptance second, right? And they're
Okay.
very closely related. But just being aware of how you're feeling and how your body is reacting, taking that next level, how it's responding and reacting in certain situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is always
Mm-hmm.
the bellwether for triggers. Um, and I can look back, and now I have this great awareness where I know if I'm just a little bit off, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, come back to your habits, come back to, I call it my happy place. You know what I mean? It's
Uh-huh.
like, I haven't been doing as
Realignment.
much journaling. I haven't been doing as much painting. I haven't been doing
Yes.
XYZ.
Yes.
But when you don't have those tools,
Yep.
and when you're resistant to, as many of us are or were,
Mm-hmm.
of that, it's beneficial to be aware of your emotional center and your emotional core. And like I said, I can go back and I can look, and I'm like, the signs were all there.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, I see
Yeah.
them and I know
Yes.
them, and I couldn't kind of get out of my own way.
Yes. For the listeners out there, one of the things that we're talking about, of the many layers that are present in this, is the reality of how internalized stressors can be. It doesn't have to be that big T trauma, just like what Eric was saying, right? The reality of those internalized stressors, and how one of the words that we will use in my field, right, in the medical field, is we're talking about psychosomatic responses, which is how your body is keeping the score. Your body is telling you what's wrong. Psychosomatic does not mean that it's not real. It means it's showing up in your body because we're not dealing with something else internally, right? Something emotionally that needs to be dealt with. And so that's part of what we're talking about here. But you used a particular phrase, and I cannot remember exactly what it was. The phrase that I use here is like owning your truth, self-awareness. Okay. When we talk about self-awareness and owning your truth, how important and critically important, y'all, it is to continue to stay aware with yourself, because Eric could have eaten those stories. He could have taken the stories that were given him of he's fine, nothing's wrong. And he could have said, fine, there's something, it's in my head. I'm imagining it. Let me just keep going. Right. And until he collapsed. Right. And I know there are people out there, clients included, we have collapsed. That's the point that we've gotten to because we ignored it or avoided it, instead of just owning it and saying, wait a minute, no, this is still present for me. And this is the self-awareness. I usually say next step up is the self-knowledge. Now that you're aware of it, what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with the knowledge that you've now acquired? Because if you keep avoiding it, we can't do anything with it. What do you want to do with it? So, I mean, I'm so grateful that you came in and just sharing about this, right? This internalized pressure, in particular around this one situation. I mean, some of us have decades and years of this, right? A lifetime's worth of this until our body is saying, that's it, that's enough. And then we get hospitalized or worse, right? So I'm gonna stop talking here. You have said, that's where you are, and you've discovered this self-awareness journey. How did you get on that track? Right. I think of all the different ways in which when we're self-aware, how, I got on the track and how somebody else got on the track. And when you think about your journey, is there something in particular that you stumbled upon, a practice, a book, a moment, right, where the light bulb just went off? Is there something that stands out to you?
I think it's twofold. I'm a like I'll read 5 books at the same time, and I just kind of devour content,
Mhm.
and I have that kind of thirst for knowledge.
Mhm.
But that was secondary,
Mm.
right? And I'm happy to kind of jump into my core books that, are seminal moments for me along in the journey. But it really was about stepping back and slowing down.
Can you just
And
say that again?
yeah, one of the most important things is about stepping back and slowing down.
Stepping back and slowing down. You guys need to write this down. And you're going to say, Nina, it sounds so small. Nina, it sounds like it's just too easy. No, it really is. Stop. Stop right now. Take a step back and ask yourself where you can slow it down. Eric, back to you.
Yeah. And no, and I think that too, it's not just what you're doing physically. And I believe that this is all in the power of now also, right? Where just stopping the process of your thoughts sometimes, letting your mind run away from you.
Mm.
For me, it starts with how I get my day started,
Okay.
right? And I know that it's important for me to write a little bit each day. It's
Okay.
important for me to read a little bit each day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for me to move my body a little bit
Mm,
each
mm,
day.
yes.
So I have my kind of holy trinity there. And just by trial and error, and I think it's important, right? It's like everyone shouldn't do those 3 things. I think it's
Oh, why
about,
not?
I think, well, I do think that they're really good things to do, right?
It
You're feeding
can
your
be, but I
brain, you're
like what you're
feeding your
saying.
soul, you're feeding you're feeding your body. Um, but I think it's important to find what works for you to help you get
Ding, ding,
centered.
ding. People, you do not belong in boxes. People don't belong in boxes. We can't just say, oh, let me take some things from you and I'll do those things and I'll be fine. It really is about being able to honor your own uniqueness and say, what is it that I'm drawn to that is going to, put me in that thoughtful state, put me in that grounded state, put me in that centered state. And move these, right, help me process either my thoughts, my feelings, or my behaviors, which we heard a little bit in just the 3 things you shared, right? It's important to move your body. It's important for you to journal. It's important for you to read, right? We're hitting thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in all of these things. So no more from me, more from you.
um, so that's my daily practice. And I know
Okay.
that, the thing is that, the ego mind is a powerful force.
Now, when you
And when
say
think
ego mind, what does that mean?
well, I'm just gonna say what it means to me, right?
I love
You
it.
you have
Thank
you have
you.
more of the professional backing here, but for me, um, it is that feeling when I'm in my habit, I'm in my ritual, I'm practicing daily,
Mhm.
and everything starts going well, and I'm feeling good, and things are manifesting for me, and it
Yes.
is
You're
it is all,
aligned, brain zone.
and then I ease up. So maybe I'm not writing every morning. Maybe I'm not reading as much as I want. Maybe I skip that day, even if it's just 15 minutes of, I'm not even going to call it yoga. I do that old man like hip stretch in the morning,
Joyful
right? Just to
movement.
loosen up a little bit.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And then, I get off track. So it's, for me, it's not about that perfection of the ritual every day, but it's about having that body awareness of when you fall down, getting back up. And honestly, like, I'm more proud of having that awareness of myself and where I'm at, you know, mentally, emotionally, and physically each day, then the, like, you know, as it has, you know, come to be called, like the 5 a.m., the hustle club, you know what I mean? Or that culture where it's just about go, 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 crush it, do your thing. Right.
Yep.
And I'm like all about like do your thing, but I'm like, do it at the tempo that works for you. And I worked with a really great coach for several months last year, and she would end every session saying, like, be kind to yourself. And you know, I remind myself of that every day.
Be kind to yourself. I wish we had more people say that to us, and I wish we said it more to ourselves. Be kind. I sometimes think that people don't even know what kindness is anymore. So while I'm now feeling wistful, thinking about the world at large, I'm gonna bring it back to where we're at. I'm gonna bring it back to right here. And I think one of the things that sticks with me, right? We're moving into the end of the episode. Of course, I want to know what our takeaways are, right? But one of the things that is sticking with me when I think about transforming this hard conversation, right, around, and in particular, this last bit you added around that hustle mentality, that hustle club mentality, that, you know, perfectionist driven, you've got to keep going, you got to do 100% every day. That sets us up for failure. It sets us up for failure because it is not realistic. Every day cannot be the blueprint for every day. And so, you know, I don't even know if it can be the blueprint for a day, right? We think about a perfect day. I don't know if I've ever had a perfect day. Have I had really good friggin' days? Yeah. Right. Can we have really good days? Yes. But so the thing that sticks with me, this will be the one thing I offer. And then I want to pass it to you. And I want to know, you know, what have been your takeaways from this episode? Um, but one of the things that I find consistently with human beings that I work with and also with myself in trying to really obtain emotional sobriety and maintain emotional sobriety, which is, you know, you can feel your feelings and let them pass on through you and you have that self-awareness. I feel like that would be the theme of this episode is like, have your self-awareness, know how to obtain that and how to maintain that. And one of the things that keeps coming back is I keep saying green zone, right? We have, there was a treatment plan that we use for people in treatment. And I love to use it for people who are actually transitioning out of treatment with me because it's so helpful. And I have the same plan, but it's this 4 square treatment plan. And it's very simply here, right? The way that it works is we've got your red zone in the center, right? Where the red flags are. You've got your yellow zone outside of that where your yellow flags are. And then you've got your green zone outside of that, which is where you're in the green zone. Everything is flowing. You're aligned. Everything is golden, right? And then we have another zone out of that, but it's not as important as the green, the yellow, and the red for what you've just shared. Because when you say, you know, I journal a little bit every day, I'm reading a little bit, I'm moving, you know, and I'm sure that there are other things that are in your life, right? That you do that I say, these are your green zone things. These are your green zone things as a human being. This is your map. This is your, right? This is the journey, right? And it's going to change, right? The territory is going to change, but that's the green zone. When any of those things disappears, and I will literally have clients write all that out. When anything disappears from the green zone, start looking at your yellow zone. I stay. Start looking at your yellow zone and saying, where are there any yellow flags popping up? If they're not, then it's just, right? You're human, you're going to ebb and flow and things are going to shift. But start noticing, oh, wait, you know what? I haven't written in a week. And I noticed that I'm avoiding actually. I am avoiding writing, which is very different than I just don't feel the need to write right now. Right. Mm-hmm. So there could be so many things in the yellow zone. And then I'm like, okay, if you notice things in the yellow zone, are there some red flags? Right. Like red flags mean immediate attention. Right. When Eric, just for the listeners out there, when Eric is talking about, you know, I was dizzy. I was going to collapse. I couldn't keep myself up. I couldn't, right, keep going this way. All of that is red flag that needs immediate attention, right? Yellow flags are the things that get us because we'll sit there in the yellow and we'll be like, oh, how many times does this have to happen before I say, I am worth enough to try to figure this out and my story matters enough and this is real. This is real and I can do something about this. I just got to figure out what it is. So thank you. that is what this is really, you're sharing in your moment is really taking me into this space of how important it is to know and have that self-awareness around what are your green zone items, what are your yellow flags, and are you in the red? What are your red flags? So I'm going to stop talking and pass it back to you. What are you taking away from this?
No, and I really love, that green zone thought process, that foundation, and that contribution just to this kind of space, because it shows the fluidity, right, of where you're at. And it's also, I was thinking towards the end of our conversation that we really have to kind of redefine what success is to us. And there is, our identity is formed so much by outside perspectives and pressures, and even the way we think we're supposed to act, and how
Absolutely.
success looks like, and what a career looks like, and how much money you need to make, and what titles you need, and stuff like that. And when I talk about emotions, I'm kind of like, and I have an 11-year-old son, and he's discovering different emotions and feelings. So one day I'm like, something's going on, and I was like, oh, are you feeling anxious about this? Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what exactly does that mean? Like, he kind of knows, but he really wanted. So we had this whole conversation about it. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling a little anxious about this. Right. And it made me realize, like, we learn fundamental emotions at a really young age, right? In this preteen. And even though you see like the young girls, and they're like, they're not getting something that they want, or boys, right? They're not getting something that they want, but then they get all cute and they're like, I'm frustrated right now, right? And it's like cute because they're like really angry and upset, but they use a big word with multiple syllables, right? And like, so that's where we learn what emotions are, and they're very limited in the definition, right? And then they grow over time, but then you start to see how much peer and society pressure puts on us as teenagers, and then the desire to fit in our workplace communities, the desire to find romantic partnership. And I look at that whole time as a suppression of our authenticity and our feelings and our emotions. And I guess, I just kind of want to say it's never too late. You're never too old to reconnect with your emotions. And like we were saying before, and to take a step back and to slow down and to start using how you feel as a bellwether for how you're supposed to be moving spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, physically, all of the above.
I'm going to offer that to our audience right now. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to look at you viewers, and I'm asking you to listen on in, listeners. If you could just, in this moment, the sound of my voice, just take a breath, stop for just this moment, right? Take that breath and take a step back. What are you noticing? What are you drawn to? What are you resistant to? What are you noticing? And what's that next step you need to move forward if there is something present that is not as you intend it to be? Anything you want to add to that, Eric? Calls to action.
Keep doing the good work. And I just, the saying is, you have to keep your side of the street clean.
Oh, yes, it is.
You got to do your work, and you got to take care of yourself, and you have to show up for yourself. And, before you do anything else for anyone else, you got to start doing it for yourself.
Show up and show out for yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. Literally, y'all. Nobody else can be you. There is so much more that we could talk about when it comes to identities and the stories that get put on us, right? And I mean, we talked about from teenage, but the reality is, even before we are born, stories are cast onto us. People buy clothing for babies in particular colors. There's a story that's now been cast. Everybody wants to know the gender reveal so that we can know how to think about this child before it even comes out of the womb, right? There's all of these things that we imagine doing and casting stories on human beings, and it never stops. So best thing we can do, control what we can control, and really learn how to listen in to us. Show up and show out for yourself. This has been a lovely grounding episode, Eric. Thank you for sharing. Before we say where listeners can find you, can we do a quick internal weather check out? What's the weather like now?
Clear skies is
Clear
what I'm saying. Yeah, there feels like there's more space in the air right now from this conversation.
More expansion, more openness, more space. Thank you, Eric. All right, tell everyone, where can we find you?
The best way to find me is my website, ericleffler.com. I know you'll put it in the show notes. And that has links to all of my socials, my newsletter, a handful of free resources that talk about the emotions that we have when our needs are being met or dismissed, along with some values work, because I love a good values sheet. And like I said, and my newsletter is linked there also. So that is the best way to find all of the free goodies that I have, and also info@ericleffler.com is my email if anybody wants to reach out and to talk about anything.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely. This is your podcast, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for noticing. I feel so seen. When someone has the self-awareness and they notice that they're ready to reach out, what is it that they would be thinking or feeling or doing that says you're their person, that Eric is the one that they want to reach out to? Now's the time.
That's a really wonderful question. And I would say that the best moment to reach out is when you feel, I like to say that life, work, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. And the structure that we live in has, if there's winners, that means there has to be losers. And I am counterculture to that thought. So if you're willing and ready to do the work, right? Because it's your journey. And I'm just a guide to help, hold up a mirror to you and let you reflect, and let you discover, who you were really meant to be.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Eric. Eric just stumbled into something. I don't even know if he knew he stumbled into it, but for all my empowered humans out there, the dynamic, that idea of winning and losing, and that it's only winning and losing, that it's so black and white, is a powered, capital P, dynamic. It is not empowered. Powered dynamics always suggest that there's a winner and a loser, that something is right and something is wrong, that there's no gray. An empowered dynamic is, as Eric would say, like this counterculture to that. Something else actually exists out there. And if you're willing to brave that territory and exist in the gray, or if you prefer on that spectrum of brilliance that is the rainbow in between, however it is you want to see it, that not black and white, non-binary, if you want to go empowered human, that is what Eric is going to offer you, community. And I know so many of you listening are part of the empowered human community. So Eric, we're all about, owning our truth without oppressing ourselves and without oppressing others. So I'm really excited to get your information out there. Of course, y'all, it's going to be in the show notes. Thank you so much for being such an open and grounded guest for Triggered. Can we play with that, Eric? I really appreciate you.
I really appreciate you and the work that you're doing, Nina.
Thanks so much. Okay, for everyone out there, that's what we planned for today, folks. Thank you so much for, taking the time to explore your triggers as a human being. And if this episode in particular was helpful, if it spoke to you, share the episode. That's the best thing you can do to get the dialogue started. You know what else you can do? If you're like, oh my gosh, I just really want people to know they need to listen, give us a 5-star review. But let me ask this of you. Be specific about the episode that changed you, that gave you something. Let people know this is what was 5 stars about this. It was this episode with Eric. We talked about, emotionals, excuse me. I went to emotional quotient all of a sudden, right? We talked about emotions and, how we can help find our self-awareness and all of this goodness. So thank you for listening again. I hope that this was helpful. And of course, how I end every episode, stay curious.